a silicone in the tweeter. We'll take a closer look at the tweeter once we get over to the bench with it, figure out how we're gonna put this bigger tweeter in there. Now, if you are gonna put a new tweeter or something like this on the A-pillar, make sure you put some form of a serviceability point so that if this has to go back to the dealer or to a mechanic, or you just want to get over here for whatever reason, you can remove the whole speaker without like having to cut the wire. Now, there are 2 butt connectors located over here, but that's not going to do me any good. Try to get out the microphone. I ended up having to take a little bit more of the dash apart, and what that means is removing the cover of the gauge cluster. There's 2 7mm here, and this comes off, and then fully removing this whole side. Once this comes off, that comes off very easily, and then removing the knee buster here, which there's 3 7s to get the plastic off and 4 10s to get this piece of metal off, and that allowed me to get the RCAs and the mic wire through this area here. It was kind of wrapped around and all kinds of fun stuff, but I did find this, and this brings me to one of my pet peeves. I'm all for taping up the wire the way they did here. It's cool. But what I don't like is the remote turn on getting taped up into the wire. There's no need for it. I can't do it like this. And there again, I know why they put it over here, because as we saw, there was no room in the dash, so they just probably pulled it all over here and bundled it up. If I have to bundle up on RCA, it is not going to have the remote turn on wire in it. I'm going to remove it. I'm going to redo this piece here so that it is the way it's supposed to be. Now, this is one of those other funny things is you did the half wrap all the way through here, but then behind the radio where no one is actually going to see it, you did the full wrap. That to me is kind of counterproductive, because no one is actually ever going to see this, whereas leaning up underneath the dash, they're going to see this. So this, if you're trying to just keep the wire together in a group, half wrap is cool, but if you're trying to blend the wire in with the factory, then you want to do a full wrap where people are actually going to see it. When you do a half wrap like this, this is more or less for keeping the bundle of wire together. It's not wrong, and that comes down to system planning. If you just want to use the tape as a bundle maker, then do a half wrap. If you want to use the tape as a full insulator, then make sure you do a full wrap. That's one of those things people will debate about. Ooh, love it. Fernando's still over there soldering that all back together. It's going to take him a couple minutes. Next, I'm going to pull up the floorboard and we'll see what this amplifier install looks like. Running board is off. The sub RCA remote turned on. Looks like they came down around this way, and they're going all the way across the floor underneath, because the sub amp is underneath the passenger seat. Underneath the driver's seat is the highs amp, and if we look at it here from the front, we can kind of get an idea. It's kind of chilling out back there. There's your power wire, ground wire, and 2 big zip ties. Sliding the seat forward and looking at it from the back side. Okay, something that you don't want to do is tuck the RCAs underneath the amplifier and screw the amplifier down. Now, clearly I've been doing this a really long time. Sorry about that. This is something that has started and been going on for a long time. Why you would screw an amplifier on top of the RCAs, or any of the wires for that matter. It's one of those things I've seen over and over again. For me, I don't understand it, because willingly pinching the RCAs underneath the amplifier, I don't get it.
The heat.
Everything. It's just silly. I could see saying this to somebody, and then they would reply back, well, dude, it's foam, so the RCA is, you know, pushing down into the foam because the amp is hard. It's like, what? That doesn't even make sense. If you're gonna be doing some kind of an amp install, don't screw the amp on top of the RCAs. And I know some of you out there have done it before, and you're like, yeah, it seemed like a good idea at the time. And a lot of times I can see that, but we're better than that now, so let's not do that. The other thing too is there's no amp rack holding this thing in place. It's just screwed into the rubber mat. Focal uses an extremely long screw to go in through the top, which is an Allen that comes in the box. This is a small 4-channel. This is the FPX 4.800 4-channel. It's a freaking awesome amplifier. It's just been done dirty. I'm gonna get it out. I have the amplifier out, pulled all the wiring out, got everything back to where it needs to be. Remove the ground. The ground was located right here, and they had sanded away all the paint, and there was a couple holes. I covered them up with sound treatment. I couldn't get to them from the backside, which is what I normally like to do, but when I did crawl underneath the truck, oddly enough, I saw daylight. There was a couple holes that looked like underneath the seat that had clips or something, and they pulled all those out. So I put sound treatment over those holes so that no more water, I should say, will be coming up through there. So there was a hole open up underneath the seat that water was definitely going to be getting into. Joy. This is still over here, but Fernando informs me that he's done soldering that back together. Now we can get over there, take a look. How many wires did you end up soldering together?
5, 6.
5 or 6, yeah, that's what it looked like.
Yeah.
So the easiest thing for us to do is, these 2 were speaker wires, 4 of them were speaker wires. Those were easy enough to cut, solder back together, and put heat shrink over. There was some other wires that we didn't know what they were. We wanted to solder those back together. One of them was kind of short, so we ended up putting an extension in it. The last step will be to put some tape over them to make them look like the factory harness again. They use sticky black tape. We'll put some sticky black tape on there. We won't put Tessa tape. If they're using sticky black tape on the factory wiring, we'll use sticky black tape on the factory wiring to put that all back together, and then can go into the pile of garbage. Key is remove the running board, obviously, to get to that. The other amplifier is located up underneath this seat. We got our big ground wire. Oh, it pulled right out. I wonder what that was attached to. Looks like an Alpine, and it is an Alpine. Oh, this is different. We had that silver wire that was a ground, but this is using an 8-gauge black wire as a ground. This is just sitting, chilling out, same way the other one was. Removing the 2 screws from the rubber, it easily comes out. Pulling this forward a little bit. Alpine uses Phillips screws. As tempting as it is to use a drill because you have it in your hand, don't do it. Switch to the screwdriver. Now the other thing is, because it was screwed in, now these screws are stuck in here. Be careful what you set this on. You don't want this screw to poke a hole into anything. Over here on the side, there is that 4-gauge ground, and there is the 8-gauge ground. Apparently it was too hard to remove that. You can already see rust coming in. I'll do the same thing I did on that side. Is I'll get it all off, clean off the surface rust. I'll put some insulation on this side. If I can get to it on the other side, I will also. I was able to get treatment on both sides, front and back. Luckily, the amplifiers weren't screwed through the floor, so I didn't have to cover those up. Now let's look at the door. Fernando got both of the door panels off. Boy, the hits keep rolling. This is a set of K2s in the front door. I don't really even know how to describe what I'm looking at. Apparently this is our fast ring, maybe? And then this is some foam sound shield, sound treatment that is covering up the speaker. I'll have to get all of this off and hopefully get the speaker out. Hopefully the speaker's not damaged, because that would be heartbreaking at this point. We're not planning for a damaged speaker, but this is what this looks like. If you do this, you're an idiot. That's the only thing I can say. There's absolutely no reason to do that in a door of a car, anywhere. It's like the dumbest thing. Let's take a look at what's going on here in the back. There again, no way to remove the tweeter, just butt connected. That's joy. It's really good. Are we surprised at this point?
Yeah, tweeter is coming out.
Yeah, yeah, that's okay. We're gonna put it where it belongs, hopefully. And then if we move on down, hold that for a second. Tried to use some fast rings. They even cut them, but they still did a crappy job on them. So this is a 6x9 spacer. This is not a 6x9 inch hole. Let's get this speaker out. So we got a drywall screw on the bottom, and then 2. So there's 3 different, so these 2 screws match, this screw doesn't match. Go careful. So these are the screws we use to put the speakers in the door. Okay, that makes sense. Oh, here's the acoustic plug jammed way over here into the side and just stuck to something. Cool. Oh, what the hell? Why is that bent like that? That's weird. Oh, they soldered it on. Oh, they booger soldered it too. They didn't even do a good job. Wow, that means that got really hot. That's bad. Found the passive crossover. It's being held in by a giant zip tie. Hey, here we go. We have the crossover. This was mounted inside of the water vapor barrier, so that means that this got wet. If you're gonna mount it in the door, which isn't the end of the world, you wanna make sure that you do it on this side, somewhere here between this and the door panel, not behind here where it's exposed to all the elements.
Any corrosion?
I don't know, I'll take it apart later and we'll check it out. It's just gross, just like all kinds of sticky crap all over it. All right, that leaves us with getting this speaker out, which is clearly gonna take a little bit more time. We also need to roll these windows back up because he said he had sound treatment in here and I really need to see where it's at before I give him a call and suggest we do more.
But this is the sound treatment that he had.
It could be the sound treatment that he had.
Like they say, we're going to put sound treatment in your speaker. Like literally, on your speaker. This is not good, man. Come on. Sound treatment is in the surround.
So in this particular Ford, it's a 5x7 and not a 6x9. We've done Focal K2s in this F150, and there are a couple things that are special about it. This is fun. So this is actually a 7-inch.
7.
No, these are not. Those are all 6x9s.
7-inch.
But this is the 7-inch Kenwood adapter.
Yeah.
Not a 6.5. And then this is just the generic 6x9 adapter. So they did that to create a spacer. And I think we figured out why they had the sound treatment on the front of this. And that is because if you don't properly install these, the speaker will actually hit the door panel, because you have to remove plastic from the door panel. I know we have a video out there that we've done where we show you how to actually trim out the door panel. And what I mean is this door panel here, this metal piece comes off and you have to trim this area out so the speaker doesn't hit it. Thinking that's why they put all that sound treatment on the front, was to space out the door panel some so that didn't hit. The other thing they did is they didn't trim the back fast ring. This line that you're looking at is from the window going up and down over the top of the fast ring. They needed to cut like an inch off of the surface of that so that it wouldn't do that. As I said, there's supposed to be sound treatment in here. Do you see any?
They have.
Oh, there's some. Yeah, I see some back here. Yeah, there's some sound shield there. So believe it or not, this isn't the worst one that we've seen. This is funny though, because what we've started to see happening is that these 911s are getting more advanced, meaning that they're using some of the proper techniques, like they fully insulate some of the wires, then they don't insulate some of the wires, and it's like they're trying, but they're still falling so short. Like this, the hell is this?
No, I disagree. For me, it's, you can have all the tools, but if you do it wrong, it's still wrong. It doesn't matter.
It is wrong, but I feel like they're like using some techniques to do it wrong. Like, for example,
they have the tools.
They have the tools. They're just falling short.
But they still doing it wrong. So it's like,
yeah,
dude,
it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
I don't like it. Either way, this is what we've got. Now, to give you guys a reference point, like if you're ever here and you want us to do something like this, we've been working on this now for about 2.5 hours to get to this point where we have almost the whole car apart. We still have the passenger side that we have to give apart, and we have to hop over to the bench and we're going to clean all these things up so that we can reuse them, because right now they're not in a usable state. We still have sticky goo all over the speakers, and we'll get to that. But the last thing that we need to get out of the car, other than the other door, like I said, is the subwoofer enclosure. He likes the bass that this has, and so we're going to leave it as far as that goes. It is kind of big and it kind of sticks out. He wanted 212, so that's why the 212s do stick out. Apparently the jack is just laying on the floor behind the box. These are 10s, but he thought he had 12. I know they're 10s, but my eyes might be playing tricks on me.
There's no way.
I'm just saying, I was like, he said 12s. These are definitely not 12. Alright, so he thought he had a 212 box, and he has a 210 box. This is when you think it can't get more amusing.